Ever feel like your health routine is just another exhausting job? What if mastering your habits was as simple as just ticking a box a day? We've all been there, juggling back to back meetings, endless family commitments, and the frustration when the health just takes a back seat again. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. I've been coaching busy professionals for over 25 years, and I've recently introduced a unique system for high performers that they can integrate into their lives. This system, as you can see on the screen here, I've created a link in the description below which you can download. It's completely free to download. It will look slightly different from this format when we go through it in depth, but it basically underpins learning about the Daily Core 5 system. And the Daily Core 5 system is a system I created basing habits around key areas of health or core areas of health. Those being sleep, eat, drink, move, and recover. And we're going to go through each of those and explain how we make a decision making process about what we're actually going to work on and how you're going to move forward. Now, what we do with this process is we track it for, we select just one simple habit from each of the DC5 categories. So we're going to select one habit from sleep, something that we can measure and that you can track for 15 days. And that's the really important thing. We track it 15 days. It has to be something that is measurable. And our goal is going to be to shoot for 80%. 80% being, if we can hit our habits 80% of the time, we're going to be moving forward. And then we're going to go through a structure where we can reflect on day 15 and go through what I call the R4 process and really look at our habits and see where we can dial in and really make our habits either work where they might have been too hard or possibly they might have been easy and you've integrated them already. And this works around the whole basis that habits take anywhere from 7 days, 15 days to 150 days. I don't think there's really actually any research that's distinctly conclusive. And in my mind, a habit takes as long as it takes. Okay, and some people find that they integrate habits very, very quickly into their lives, and others take a lot of time. And I have found that in myself. There's a number of habits that I keep coming back to that I want to integrate as a daily habit, and I want to be doing for months, years, as long as I may live. And those habits need to be integrated into my life. And this is what this system does, even though I failed at some of them sometimes. And that's what this is about. The reflection is about looking at what you did well, looking at what you maybe failed at or could have done better, and then making decisions about whether or not you work to stay in that type of thing. Now, this is if you want to go in depth into that information, you can click a link here to the video that I covered beforehand, and I go a little bit more depth into the process there. But what we're going to look at is the Daily Core 5 system and building out your own habits for you that are distinctly for you and not for anyone else. And that's why I think this system works over and above any other type of system, because it's completely adaptable. It's completely adaptable to you. Doesn't matter where you're starting from. Doesn't matter what you've done before. Doesn't matter what type of diet you want to follow, what type of exercise you want to do. We're going to create a decision-making process, decision-making tree, maybe some people call it, to actually give you the information you need to get there. Okay, so we'll then go through integrating some habits and then looking at the daily tracking. And finally, at the end of the video, we'll look at the R4 decision map, that reflection process that we do on day 15. So let's look at the system. The system is obviously the 5 key areas that I mentioned. Now, let's imagine that we were going to start our cycle of 15 days tomorrow. We would always count the previous night's sleep as day 1. So on day 0 today, we are going to set up our system to follow, and your sleep is what you're going to do tonight, and then you will score that tomorrow morning. And it's a nice way of waking up straight away from day 1 every day and either going, yes, I'm on track with my sleep, or no, I'm not on track with my sleep. And as we get into the system, I'll show you how each of those work. Now, to get into the system, we're going to look at a process map I've got here. Now, this is what I showed you, is the little screen share earlier. And as I say, it's all available in the link below, as is the other information that we just looked at, as is this decision map is here, and then other things are in here as well for you to follow along. The cycle, we can fill that out later, and then the daily tracking. So as I say, all of this is available if you click on the link below. It's completely free. I don't even want an email from you in this case. So let's get into the habit selection framework, as I've called it. Now, this habit selection framework, obviously, is based around the 5 core areas. So I mentioned sleep. We generally decide on sleep first because that's the thing we're going to be working on this evening to then start tracking how well you do from day to day. What I have said before in the last video is that there are actually 3 ways that we can track sleep. That is, we can look at sleep length, we can look at time to bed, the bedtime, or we can look at maybe having a routine. So you have to make a decision. Okay, what are you going to do? Now, generally for me, one of the easiest things to do, and with my private clients, what I work on is we're just going to work for a sleep length. Unless they have specific routines or bedtimes they want to work on that they introduce, I generally start with sleep length. And this goes where if you've only been sleeping 4.5 hours a night, and I would suggest 7 to 9 hours being the optimal amount to sleep, where are you now and where do you need to go? Okay, so let me just explain that. If the goal is 7 to 9 and you're at 4.5, it might be not possible for you to suddenly change like that to 7 hours sleep. And if you're not hitting that 7 hours sleep and you're not ticking off that habit, it doesn't feel like you're moving forward. So I would start at trying to just challenge the bottom end of where you're at. So if you're getting 4.5 hours, maybe we shoot for 5 or 5.5. Yeah, so that could be your sleep goal. Okay, then bedtime, again, sleep is best when you can get regular bedtimes and wake times. It just helps the body as best it can just regulate all of the systems within the body. So bedtime can be 11 p.m, 10 p.m, whatever that might be. And again, that's something you can wake up the next morning, just tick off, yeah, I went to bed on time or in the window that you were looking for. And then finally, we do have the routine. Now, the routine can be a number of things. Some clients they non-stop look at their phone, Instagram scrolling and on all that jazz. But whilst they're lying in bed, and so they say maybe a goal for them might be to have just no phone 1 hour before bed. Just taking their time to let their brain switch down. And that's the same with things like meditation and breath work. And then the last 2 I would suggest are things that I have found personally for me and some of my clients works best for them with not disrupting their sleep. Doesn't work for everybody. It's not something that is applicable to everybody, but not doing exercise 3 to 4 hours before I go to bed. I find that if I exercise late, I just ramp my system up and I can't switch off, and then I'm up till way past midnight. If I train at 7, 8, 9 p.m. at night, something like that. So I'm trying to go to bed, let's say around 10:30, 11 p.m. And so I want to make sure I'm working out 3 to 4 hours. And that's just a nice routine if you find that it might be affecting your sleep. And this is the thing, by checking it for the 15 days, and then we're going to do the reflection process at the end, we're going to find out some things, and then you can then be informed about that habit and whether you're going to stick with it or not. And then the no food thing, again, for me, I just find if I eat late, it tends to keep me up, or I don't sleep so well. That's something that is obviously individual to each person. So we're going to need to select one routine, one habit. Okay, so I'm going to start filling out in this form here. I'm going to start filling out exactly what we're going to do in relation to these habits. So let's put in here sleep. Our sleep goal will be, let's do 10:30 p.m. to bed. And that's it. Boom, it's there. Sleep, that's my specific trackable goal. If I wake up before that, I can then if I go to bed before that time, the next day I can tick off that that's been my habit. And it's as simple as that. And you're going to select the habit you want to do and what you want to do. The no phone 1 hour before bed might be a different type of habit. It might be, do you know what, leaving the phone outside of the bedroom. These are all habits I've worked on with clients before that they find really useful for integrating into their lifestyles and their routines. So we've decided on how to what we're going to do to sleep for our habit, and then I've mentioned before we've got eat. I mentioned in the previous video that we have eat, and we have what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat. And let's just break those down a little bit further. What to eat can be anything around calories. So if you want to be in a calorie, if you want to be losing weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. If you're trying to put on muscle mass, you need to be in a calorie surplus. So we may look at that as something that you're trying to follow. Are you hitting certain calorific intake a day? Not for everybody. Not everybody wants to count calories. It is fairly important to understand calorie content. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole now. We will save an extra video for all the eat stuff a little bit later on. But protein, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are lacking in their dietary intake, especially as we age. Protein very, very important. And again, I will go through a lot more of this when we go in depth into the eat category. But if you look here, I might just choose one simple thing. It might be I want to be eating more protein. I want to be eating lean protein. I want to be eating X amount per grams of protein every day. And you can get really specific. The more specific, the better, because then you're really tracking yourself with what's really going to be best for you. And it might be that you're just following a specific diet, right? It might be that you're paleo or keto or vegan or pescatarian. Do you know what? It really doesn't matter to me. As I said before, I'm diet agnostic. Whatever works for you. I'm one of the pickiest eaters you'll ever meet. I don't eat anything that comes from the sea. I don't like organ meats. I don't like brown meat from birds. It's beef, pork, it's chicken breast. I'm very particular. But I've created a system that has enabled me to be particular and still get where I want to go with my eating. Now, fasting, I put a little question mark on that. We'll come back and talk about that a little bit more in the next part when we move on to what is when to eat. Okay, so when to eat is more around the fasting. And it might be things as simple as eating breakfast if you've never eaten breakfast before, or not eating breakfast if you have eaten breakfast before, and I'll explain the reason for that. I was going to save some of this for the whole video on eat, but I'll share this. The evidence would suggest from an analysis of all of the research that the difference between eating breakfast or not eating breakfast on weight loss was actually more dependent on people doing the opposite to what they had done habitually. So if you had always eaten breakfast before and you stopped eating breakfast, most of those people in general, they lost weight. If you were the other way around, if you were eating breakfast and you said you're not eating it, or if you weren't eating it and you're now eating it, so people who weren't eating it and now eating it, they were losing weight as well. So again, skipping breakfast, do you need to do it? Maybe. Depends on your lifestyle, depends on what suits you. Some people like to extol or look at the virtues of eating before 6 p.m. Something that I try and adhere to goes quite often, as I use fasting protocols quite a lot. And I use fasting protocols. There might be some evidence around the longevity health benefits of fasting protocols. I generally do it just to control my calorie intake because I'm generally, in most cases, trying to lose weight, trying to control my weight. It's something that's always been an issue for me and hard. And, it's unsurprising that even though I'm in the fitness industry, it's something I've had to work on my whole life, really working to control it. And I've used all types of different fasts. OMAD, that's the one meal a day. So I've used that before when traveling in China and I didn't want to eat some of the foods that were out and about on the street markets, etc. So all I did was just eat once a day when I got back to my hotel, ordered a load of food, the right amount of protein for me, and just ate one meal. So that worked for that situation. It's not something that I would want to follow daily. It doesn't work my lifestyle daily. And then there are other protocols like 24 or 16/8. Those are, the first number is the amount of hours that you fast for, and the second number is the number of hours that you have as an eating window, we often refer to it as. Now, again, you can be choosing anything. Remember, we've just been talking about we're only choosing one trackable habit in eat. Okay, so let's not forget we're going to choose, are we going to look at a what, a when, or a how, and we'll go through a how in a second, and then we're going to come down to something very specific. Remember, one specific trackable thing that we can tick off. That's why fasts are quite good. They're quite easy to follow. If you want to try them, they can be good. TRE is a time restricted eating. It was something I took from one of the, I think it's called the Code. They referred to it as that. There's lots of words for fasting. I use that in Code to be, I wouldn't eat anything or consume anything other than water for a select period of time. So if I was doing a 16/8 fast under a TRE protocol, it would mean that I would not even have black coffee until I had followed my 16-hour fast. Under the way I currently fast to control calorie intake, I don't worry about my coffee intake. I take black coffee with no sugar. So I don't worry about my coffee intake in terms of part of my fasting. So again, it's just a different method. Do you have black tea, black coffee, some ingestion of some fluids other than just water? That can be the difference. And again, it's all personal. It all depends on what you're looking to achieve and what sort of mindset you've got to it. And of course, there's extended fasts. Extended fasts, I've done a few. I've done a few 66, 70-hour fasts before, just to see what it was like, really, and see how my body reacted to it, see what the mindset needed for it, and go through that experience. I said I've done two. I don't think I'd do one that long again for a while. These were about 6 or 7 years ago. It wasn't something I enjoyed, and within the DC5 system, it doesn't really fit because it's an extended fast. I wouldn't say extended fast 15 days, certainly. You would really should see a doctor about doing anything as drastic as that. But yeah, yeah, extended fast don't really fit because it's not something I would suggest you're going to do every day. So when to eat is just, are you going to do a fasting, or are you going to skip breakfast, or are you going to eat all your food before 6 p.m, something like that. And then we got the how. The how is the mindfulness. You know, we hear people say you should be mindful in your eating and mindful in your living your life. So what is it that you need to do to be mindful around how you eat? Well, there's a couple of things. You can do eating until you're 80% full. And a lot of that is by eating slowly, you can get or slower, you can get the hormones in the body that actually understand how full you're getting, time to actually trigger, and you don't sort of fill your face full of food before the hormones tell your brain you're full. So about 80% full was a great idea. You can just chew every mouthful, making sure that you chew it 20, 30, 40, whatever many times you want to do. You can put your knife and fork down in between every mouthful. Again, just making sure that you're not shoveling food in. When I say that, that's because I've been somebody who historically has been a shoveler of food. I look around, and that's what finisher means. I sat eating with a group of friends, and historically I would be the first to finish, and they're all eating for another 2, 3, 4, 5. Some of them really slow friends, they know who they are, 15 to 20 minutes. But yeah, being not the first to finish is a goal that you could have as a daily thing. It might not be if you're eating with family every day, then you might not choose that. It might not fit as a simple metric that you can check off every day. So chew every mouthful, that's easy. Putting your knife and fork down, you can measure that. So again, you're just trying to find one thing to do. So let's go ahead and decide. I'm going to go with a protein, a what to eat and a protein goal, something that I like to do. I'm going to set that at 150 grams per day. Yeah, so I want to be eating a minimum of 150 grams of protein a day, and if I do that, I've hit my goal. So let me add it to here. You see I've added it into the cycle one here. So there we are. We got our two right away. Take your time to select your own, think about it a bit, see what you think might work for you. We're going to move on to move. Now, just as eat was a complex area to go through, sorry, we're going to drink next. I missed out drink. Poor old drink. Okay, drinking liquids. Basically, there's a number of things we can look at. Again, there's three broad categories, or sorry, three smaller buckets or categories under each of the five main categories. One of them is hydration. The next one is liquid calorie consumption, and then the third is caffeine. Now, again, we can look at different types of things. Water quality. I'm a believer that we should be drinking natural mineral waters as much as possible. If you don't, maybe adding electrolytes in. But where I generally start is getting somebody to understand how much water they're taking on board. I think people are often dehydrated. They drink some water, but they probably don't drink enough. And it depends how active you are. It depends what type of climate you live in. For me personally, I shoot for trying to go for an amount of water or an electrolytes. I generally drink good quality water that's been filtered, etc. So yeah, it's just something around hydration, something around keeping your body fluid balance in check or in optimal. Liquid calorie consumption, that's sodas, alcohol, fruit juices, basically. I've never been a soda drinker or really a fruit juice drinker. That's not really been something I've ever had. So if you are somebody who consumes liquid calories and if your overall goal is to have some weight loss, then probably reducing the amount of calories you consume in liquid form is good strategy. For me, alcohol's always been something I've enjoyed. Don't mind a good drink every now and then. But if you want to be cutting that out of your consumption, then again, you can be, you might go, I'm okay to have one glass of wine a day, but I've been having three glasses of wine, okay, with your evening meal. So you go, okay, if I have one glass of wine, less than, one glass or less, tick. Yeah, you can set it whatever you want. These are your rules for the system I've created for you. You need to decide what suits you and what works for you. And remember, you're just setting this for 15 days. After the 15 days, you're going to be able to then look at that habit, make some decisions about whether you continue or not. Caffeine amount, how much coffee you drink a day, time. Some people tell me that they struggle to sleep if they consume caffeine late into the day. Even though if I consume food quite late, I don't sleep that well. When I drink coffee, I can drink an espresso at 10 p.m. and still be asleep at 10:30. So caffeine affects everybody in different ways. It's a lot around the genetics. Won't go into that right now, but sugar also, are you adding sugar to your caffeine, whether it be tea or coffee or something else? And then you got the type. Is it coffee, tea, or is it an energy drink? Okay, so if you want to change what make sure you're drinking less of, or not drinking at the right time, or the type of caffeine that you're consuming. Those are those are different ways you can look at addressing that. So what we'll do is we'll add in a drink goal. I'm going to add the one that I've just added to my actual cycle right now, one I started yesterday, because I live in a hot, very humid climate, although it's relatively cool as we're coming out of winter still. But I generally try and drink 3 litres of water a day, and that would be my goal. The problem had been that I was backloading my water late into the day to try and hit that, and then that was disrupting my sleep a bit. So the new goal that I decided for myself is 2 litres water before 1 p.m. Which reminds me, it's 20 past 11, and I've got 2 more of these to go. Got to follow my rules for my cycle. Okay, so sorry, I just realised I'm not sharing that screen. There we are. So 2 litres of water before 1 p.m. Okay, let's move on. Let's move into the one I was talking about before, which is sorry, go back to this screen. This is move. Now, let's talk about move. Move, we've got three elements to move. We've got move activity, move exercise, and move sport. Let's break down what activity is first. Generally speaking, I work around number of steps you take a day. It could be doing some interventions around travel, stair use rather than lift use, depending where you live or where you work. And then you can do activity before and after a meal. So steps, again, where do you start at steps? There's the old adage at 10,000 steps a day. I don't care where you want to get to. I care about where are you now. So let's say you're only doing 5,000 steps a day and you want to increase your activity level. We might say, do you know what? You're going to do just 5,500 steps where you were doing 5,000 before. If you can push it to 5,500, boom, tick done. Move goal hit. Okay. The other one is in travel, something I do. I think I mentioned I move. If I'm traveling on the metros, I will always walk to the far end of the platforms, get on the train there. It's less busy. When you come out at the station, you end up having, if you were closer to the escalator exit, you have to queue anyway. So I'm just going to utilize that time a little bit better. That's just something that I've learned to do. Going to airports, picking up people from airports, just making sure that I'm trying to get my steps in, especially if I'm going to stay on a plane for 12, 13 hours, returning back to the UK, something like that. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting my steps up beforehand. So it's just simple stuff like that, out and about. Some of these can be hard to be a trackable daily habit. So I generally stay with steps. But the one that I've worked with clients before quite well is, going for a little walk before and or after their meals. Just 10 minutes. Just go out for a 10-minute round the block, come back, eat. Or eat and go for a walk for 10 minutes around the block, or 10-minute walk, eat, 10-minute walk after. It really depends. For me, it's always been steps. So if we jump back to here, we'll go move steps. My goal is 10,000. We'll go let's put a 12,000 goal. Let's put no, I'm going to be sensible. Somebody who's not been doing much steps. 6,000 steps. But now I'm going to put or. And that or is important because some people don't exercise. Now, I think you should. I think exercise is really important. But exercise for me, I define the difference between activity and exercise as when you change your clothes. You just do activity during the day, and exercise, you change your clothes to do exercise, or you should if you're going to be a sweaty and you're going to wear the right use the right equipment and stuff to wear. Sorry, I digress yet again. Complex topic. It's exercise again. There will be another whole video for this exercise complex topic. There's so much to understand. Everything that I work on around exercise is based from something called the 8 First Principles. I don't have the time to go through the 8 First Principles now, but one of the key points of the first principle is, go to it, progressive overload. Okay? So progressive overload is a really key principle. Sorry, let me just run through them as they're here. So adaptation is the way that the body changes when you do something to it. So if you lift a weight, that tells the brain and the muscle to adapt and do something and change. Specificity means when you do something, the body adapts specifically to the type of training or stimulus load that you're doing. Yeah, so if you want to get fitter for swimming, you need to swim. Yeah, you can't run to get fitter for swimming. It's specific. Progressive overload, that is, you need to do more work the next time you do something. So let's go to the swimming example. If you swam 10 lengths and it took you 10 minutes, you either next time go maybe push to do 11 lengths, or maybe to do the 10 lengths in less time. So it's just, are you doing it? Is it slightly harder than before? Now, I say than before, it doesn't have to be every time you work out, but there has to be an uplift over time of that progressive overload. So slightly more each time. Accommodation, don't worry about that. That's just your body will get used to something. We won't go through that very much now. Periodization is a way to try and combat that accommodation, which means that your body stops changing, and then we're going to use periodization to keep your body changing. Reversibility means you lose whatever you gain over time if you don't continue to use that. So if you don't continue to train that, and then there's some general things around training in terms of how you should start, whether you should be doing free weights or machine weights or body weight or external resistance like the machines and the free weights. These are generalizations, and then there's individualization, and that's really key. The individualization, because that individualization takes us on to how to start. Yeah, because you need to, if you're going to start doing exercise, or if you want to do exercise, or if you're currently doing exercise, but you want to make a change to it, you need to understand couple of things. First, what is your current status? Then, what is the goal you're looking for? Because remember, those changes the bodies make are very specific to the type of exercise you do. There's some broadness that we can get away with at times, but that is really important. And we'll just go through what is the minimum dose theory, or min dose. So current status. What's your injury history? Have you ever been injured before? What can you do? What can't you do? Have you had a hip replaced, for instance, and there's a certain amount of motion around the hip that you need to avoid because you just can't make it. Your structures won't allow you. What is your exercise history? Have you ever done resistance training before? Have you ever done cardiovascular training before? Any stretching, anything like that? Have you done any of it before? And what's your current ability? You might have done exercise before and you might have an injury history, but right now, currently, everything's healthy. And you haven't worked out for 5 years. So what's your current ability? If you have never been injured, have no exercise history, not done anything for 20, 30 years, for instance, and then your current ability is basically a complete beginner with no exercise history, but no real issues to worry about in terms of the injury. So that would then go, right, what is my goal? And the goal obviously generally works around sort of a few things. There's fat loss, muscle gain. Just healthier is something that a lot of clients say to me before they really dive deep into what are they looking to do, which I would suggest 80 to 90% of people that I've trained over 25, 27 years are looking to look better naked, which means fat loss and or muscle gain, or down here what is called body recomposition, where you actually lose body fat and maintain, or if not grow, a little bit of muscle. Not easy to do, much easier when you're new and haven't done any exercise. So if you're in your 40s or 50s and you've never done any exercise, look out, you've got some big improvements to come, and it will be a learning curve and an explosion in everything that you can do. And then the goal might be to run, swim, walk, whatever, 10K, half marathon, triathlon, something like that. So what's your goal? Because if your goal is to run a marathon in under 3 hours, but you have no exercise history and your current ability includes the fact that you are 30 to 50 pounds overweight, that's 15 to 25 kilograms overweight, then that's not realistic. And to get to run it in 3 months' time. If it's to run it in 6 months to a year to 2 years' time, well, that's something that you can then meet. So where you're at, what do you want to achieve? Now, generally speaking, I will save any more on this other than to say you really want to be trying to do some type of resistance and or cardio training. As I say, it's a complex topic. If you have never done anything before, I would suggest starting with just something as simple as some body weight squats. If you don't want those up, just look it up on YouTube. Push-ups on my knees and maybe some lunges. Maybe just do 5 to 10 of them. Just do it for 3 to 5 minutes and do that 3 times a week for 15 days. Now, that's why I had an or on this page. So if you've never done exercise, I'm not going to say to you, you need to do exercise every day. You might only need to do exercise 3 times a week to start with. Okay. And some people, when we talk about the if I go back a screen, when I talk about the individualization of this, so it was the individualization here, some people might find that they cannot recover quick enough. Their genetics don't allow them to recover quick enough to be training every day. So that's why we have a move or an exercise. So what I would put here is something like resistance. We call it resistance, which resistance just means using something of load to train the body. Now that might be body weight. Push-ups on your knees is resistance training. It's just body weight resistance training. Going to a gym and lifting weights is resistance training, but it's an external resistance training. So I'm going to put resistance training 5 mins or 15-minute walk. So we've got 2 ors there. If we're just giving somebody who's just new to exercise a little bit of an easy goal to follow, walk 15 minutes or do 5 minutes of resistance exercise or do 6,500 steps. Well, the 15-minute walk would be some of their steps. That's what happens sometimes with cardio or walking or running goals. But this is exercise, resistance 5 minutes or a 15-minute walk, and this is activity. And now, what I suggest is you do not score yourself, or you do not tick off your goal for both. Obviously, yeah, we're only looking to hit one of them. We're only looking to be 80% on target across these 5. So the activity and the exercise give you 2 ways, or most people 2 ways of scoring there. Now I've just skipped over pretty much the sport. Now the sport is something that we will just briefly touch on now. Sport, you got games players. Most people who do, let's say, who do sports like triathlon or marathon running or trail running or something like that, they're going to be doing training that's exercise. Okay, so we're really talking about games players. We're talking about people who play something like a football or rugby or tennis or paddle or something like that. And the problem is it doesn't meet the progressive overload first principle, because you do not track probably how much you run, move, whatever. I'm not saying it's not good to do. I do think it's good to do. But from an exercise standpoint, it doesn't count as exercise. And that's why I also count yoga and Pilates in that, because unless you're yoga and Pilates, yoga both do have some element of progressive overload, but I generally put them under the sports side because I personally believe resistance training is phenomenal at helping with stuff whilst you're aging, and it's probably better that we do this way most of the time. So if I was to say yoga, Pilates, don't get upset, please, I put it under the sport category. You could, it's up to you. As I say, that's where I place it. This is your cycle of training, your 15 days you're following. But yeah, the progressive overlay is not met with this. If you're new to the sport, then for the first 6 to 12 months, it might not matter, right? You might just get fitness benefits from it, exercise benefits from it, from just pursuing that sport. But if you've been doing it for more than about 12 months, unless you track how far you run like a GPS tracker and make sure you run faster or do more, you're not going to get the progressive overload from it. It's great movement. It's great for health. I always say be fit to play sport. Don't play sport to be fit. So yeah, that's something really interesting that you can start looking at, and then integrate one of the, I would suggest 2 of the 3 would be best. But if you're just focusing on at least getting your steps up, that would be great. And then finally, we're going to get into the recover. Now, the recover is things that I like to put in that are other good things to do. And I've broken those down into 3 categories again: body, mind, and supplementation. So body stuff is basically looking after soft tissue, whether that be like with a foam roller or massage gun or trigger ball, point ball, something like that. Something where you're looking after, you're doing more. It's almost like rehabilitation, but it's self-directed rehabilitation. Stretching as well. You can do yoga under this again. If you're a yoga type person, then this is a nice place to put as a mind body thing. Again, that's if you do it daily. If you then go, I want to challenge myself to do some resistance training because I do yoga, but I don't do resistance training with weights, and that's something you want to do, you'd put that into your move and keep your yoga in your recover. If you're doing it daily anyway, it's not maybe a habit you need to really challenge yourself on. So then you got a rehab program that's mainly for a lot of my clients who have got injuries and ailments as they grow older. Often we have some kind of rehab program. I work in association with physiotherapists and uh, people that can help with injury management and things like that. So sometimes they have a rehab program. You often go, if you've seen a physiotherapist before, they'll say to you, here's an exercise list. You should be doing this 3 to 5 times a week, or even sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, depending on what it is. And you just don't do it. So this is a nice way of putting that into your day and making sure that, okay, my recovery is going to be my rehab program. Core training could be core training is something you can do daily. Those muscles adapt very quickly to training. And that's where I include something like Pilates. If you wanted to be doing something like Pilates and include that into your recovery protocol, maybe you're just doing 5 to 10 minutes of it a day as you introduce it and learn it. So these are all the ways of integrating a recovery protocol that is body based. We've then got the mind based stuff, meditation, breath work. They're the classics that people would think about. Forward planning. This is something that I've tried, and I'm thinking about trying it for my final for in my next cycle. Um, Forward planning, if that's doing your to-do list or planning your diary, or some kind of daily forward planning about the next day's activities. So, and the other one is then the opposite to that is reflecting. Reflecting on your day daily. Maybe that's journaling for some people. So that's if you're something you want to get as being a habit that you do, you can include that there. It's a mind thing. It's part of your recovery, and it's going to be good for your overall health, and just a nice way to integrate another good habit into your life. And then supplementation. It could be things like creatine. I'll save a video for creatine, whether or not I think you should be taking it or not. That would be a controversial one when it comes out. Omega 3, something that I take a lot of. It's something that I don't, as I said, I don't eat anything from the sea, so I have to supplement omega 3. Something that I've struggled to do consistently, and is something that has found its way into my 15-day cycles, and for longer than 15 days sometimes, to try and integrate it as a habit. It's something that's going quite well at the moment. It could be vitamins, minerals, magnesium. It might be just taking a protein shake. That might help with upping your protein content in your eat goal. And then medication. Some people need to take medication at certain times of day, or they are not taking the medications when they should be, and that's just a nice way of making sure they do that in a nice way that fits in with what they're looking to do. So here we have the 5 key areas, and you can't really see that, it was too zoomed out. So 5 key core, daily core, 5 DC5, and the 3 broad categories we've been choosing underneath. The only thing we didn't do is we didn't fill out our recovery cycle, all right, which is here. Let me change the right one. Okay. And the recover, I'm going to use something simple like omega 3 fish oils. Yeah, if I take those daily, you're on the move. Okay, so what I said was that the key to this is, how do we go about tracking it? Now, I've got a template. I probably won't include this in the download pack for you, but because you'll probably need, um, it's not ready for mass export, but this is what I currently use to to follow my cycles through. And you see that each day is linked with a tick box that corresponds to sleep, eat, drink, move, and recover. And then I have a day score. Okay, so this is my way of ticking off and digitally recording how I do. Now, the reason why that's important is that I can get some scores of how I'm doing without doing the manual maths. Now, I've used Excel spreadsheets before. I may share one of those at a later date. But you can see here, this cycle I went through here, I scored 82.67. So 82.67%, that's 8 over the 80, boom, good job. But you can see individually where I scored higher and lower. So this was sleep. I generally always work left to right: sleep, eat, drink, move, and recover. So this sleep category here, 86%, above 80, I did really well in that. The eat, yes, I was hitting my eat goal, 93%, excellent. Drink, hit it 100%, excellent. Move, this is where I lost points. This is where maybe I wasn't focused enough, set myself a target that was too demanding. I don't know. I will find that out when I go through my reflection decision map. And then I track the final one here, it's 73%. So I can see overall I did fairly well, but I was weak in some of the DC5 areas. And that allows me to go into the next process. And that next process is looking at how do I go about making sure that I'm actually doing the right things for the right length of time. Or that I can create those habits long term. And I use this reflection process, and it's called the R4 framework for reflection. Okay? And it very simply means that on day 15, I'm going to look to see whether I think that I should remain on that habit, I should regress that habit, I should reinforce that habit, or I should replace that habit. And I'm going to build that exact plan with you in this next video right here.